Most people think of our area as Dallas, although since 2000, Fort Worth's growth has outpaced every other major city in the United States. But what is it actually like to live here day to day? Let me give you my unfiltered take on what I love, what drives me crazy, and who I think the city is really for. If you're thinking about moving to the Fort Worth area, this video will give you a real sense of what to expect. Don't get me wrong, Fort Worth is great, but it has a few things that some folks just don't like. It's no secret. Fort Worth, it's not one thing that makes people stay. It's the good combination of opportunity, diverse economy, and some affordable housing if you're willing to commute. That's hard to replicate anywhere else in the country. First off, Fort Worth is probably the most convenient location in the entire United States for travel, thanks to its proximity to the airport. The Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport is the third largest airport in the world, serving over 87 million passengers every year. You've got nonstop flights to 260 destinations, including 193 domestic cities and 67 international cities. Most major cities in the continental U.S. can be reached within about 4 hours from Fort Worth. If traveling's your hobby, or you've got families scattered across the country, or you're running a business, Fort Worth is the easiest place to travel from. On top of that, it makes it a lot easier for time zone adjustments because you go either 2 hours back or 1 hour forward. It's not that big a deal. But here's where it gets really interesting. The business environment here is unlike anything else. As a lifelong resident, I've seen the difference compared to other large metropolitan areas. First of all, Texas has no corporate income tax and no individual state income tax. That makes a massive difference when you're trying to build wealth or grow your business in the beginning. Wait until you see the investment numbers I'm going to show you later. The amount of money pouring into the infrastructure is going to blow your mind. I'll get into that in just a minute. Fort Worth has quietly become a headquarters hub, especially in the Alliance and North Tarrant areas. Since 2015, Texas has added 314 corporate headquarters. The Dallas-Fort Worth metro area ranked as the #1 metro in the U.S. for corporate headquarter relocations from 2018 to 2024. That brought in over 100 new headquarters during that time, more than Austin, Nashville, Houston, and even Phoenix. Fort Worth anchors major corporations like American Airlines, Lockheed Martin, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway. The opportunities across many different sectors are everywhere. If you're a business owner like myself, you're not getting overregulated or overtaxed. You just get to keep more of your hard-earned money, and you can actually invest that money right here. Texas is extremely landlord-friendly. If you talk to anybody who invests in real estate, they'll tell you to avoid certain states, but Texas is always at the top of the list. The DFW Metroplex just recently ranked again as the #1 real estate market moving into 2026. This applies whether you're investing in single family, multifamily, or even apartment complexes. They just reduced some of those regulations and red tape on getting them built and even investing in them. They're really encouraging multifamily investment even more, whereas other states are basically trying to get you out of it. Some people think Fort Worth is just kind of like Cowtown mixed with suburban sprawl. There is a lot of that for sure, but you got to find the pockets like the Cultural District near South Side areas, the historic downtowns, or even up in North Fort Worth. That's where the character is. Once you find these spots, Fort Worth has some amazing food, restaurants, bars, boutiques, nightlife. They also got recognized in the 2025 Michelin Guide across the Metroplex. If you think about the parks, Fort Worth has over 270 parks and 100 miles of trails, headlined by the huge Trinity Trails system. We've got some really good elevation changes, especially around the lakes, which makes for great biking. I don't love biking, but going along the Trinity River seems nice. Even though we don't have mountains or the beach, which I'll cover in just a minute, you can still get outside and enjoy excellent outdoor activities for about 3 months out of the year. Here's what most people don't realize. The amount of investment and development happening in Fort Worth is unlike any other city. The city just approved a record-breaking $5.2 billion budget for the Metroplex for 2025 through 26. That includes over $2.2 billion for infrastructure alone. Fort Worth has the Trinity River Vision Project, including Panther Island. This is a 325,000 acre urban park and development area along the Trinity River just outside downtown Fort Worth. They broke ground in April of 2025. You have DFW Airport investing over $9 billion in their new program, adding a whole new terminal that will expand to 31 gates. That's a $4 billion project on its own. There's just no other city I feel is going to come to this level of investment, and it's absolutely blown up. That's what I get excited about. I can really see the future here. The combination of travel, convenience, business opportunity, and massive infrastructure investment creates something truly unique. For anyone building wealth or growing a business, that kind of trifecta is increasingly rare in America. When you understand who thrives here, which I'll break down in a minute, you'll see exactly why this matters for your specific situation. Before we get into what I don't love about Fort Worth, if you're seriously considering making a move here and want to have a real conversation about your specific situation, feel free to reach out. I've helped thousands of families relocate here, move across the Metroplex. You can shoot me a text, give me a call, or send me an email. All of that information is on the description below. My business partner, Mindy, and I and our team would love to help you make your next move to the Fort Worth area. I want to be genuine with you as well. There are 3 things about Fort Worth that really frustrate me after living here for almost 50 years, and you need to know about them before you make that move. First, let's talk about the traffic. I actually think Fort Worth traffic is better than Dallas. I've heard from friends who lived in larger metro areas that it's way better than Austin or Houston. Fort Worth pretty much stays moving even during rush hour because we've got an extensive highway system. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. The average weekday congestion time in Fort Worth is about 4.5 hours. That's a 27% increase over the past year and over an hour longer than the national average. In some parts of the city, the roads haven't kept up with growth. If you look at I-35 through downtown, 820 or I-30 during rush hour, the congestion can be pretty bad. I know they're working on it, and those projects are done, and hopefully we'll see more expansion in the next couple of years, which would make a big difference. The second thing is a big one to me personally. There's no mountains, there's no beach as far as the ocean. Fort Worth is simply landlocked. We're considered the prairie region of Texas. If you're coming from the West or East Coast, that's something you're going to miss. We've helped tons of people move here from California and the East Coast, and they don't have a problem with it. Actually, they feel those pros really outweigh the cons. Sometimes I'd rather live somewhere where I could see mountains and ocean on a daily basis, to be honest, but I just love Fort Worth. I've lived here all my life. What you're looking at is escaping everything else when you move here. Overregulated business environments, high taxes, and certain school curriculums that you may just not agree with. Everything I just told you gets turned on its head when we look at how Fort Worth could actually fix these problems, and I'm going to get there in a minute. The third thing is the sprawl. Fort Worth is completely spread out. There's really no walkable areas like you find in New York, Chicago, or even New Orleans. The public transit system is just not very good. Even though they just opened a new Silver Line across the Metroplex, again, how many people actually use that? I don't know. But what I love about a city like New Orleans is that you could actually start out walking in the Bywater, walk through Marigny Triangle, go through Esplanade Avenue into the French Quarter, and then into Uptown. You basically just walk from one cool neighborhood to the next. Fort Worth is just pockets of cool neighborhoods. You could go to one little neighborhood and spend half a day there, but then you might have to get in your car and drive to the next spot. Unless you're downtown and wanted to walk to the cultural district, that's close enough to where, I'm sure people do that. But what would still be it's still a ton of walking. When you get up to the north suburbs like Keller, South Lake, Flower Mound, the cool little pockets are pretty spread out. Of course, then there's the heat. Fort Worth is North Texas. Our summers run from May to September, sometimes December. July and August are pretty hot. We set a record a few years ago for the most 100-degree days in a calendar year, which I'm not proud of. Whenever you get in your car and it's like 115 on the dashboard, you're not really wanting to go outside until the sun goes down, or at all sometimes in the summer, because it just doesn't cool off at night. 2025 actually was fairly mild. We only had a few days of 100-degree days, but the other aspect is, as we get into September through December, we have beautiful 75 to 80-degree days. So we're not getting hit with crazy, insane cold blast and snow, and it's not like the Northeast. So my favorite time of year is the fall. I've had many Christmas pictures in a t-shirt and shorts with the sun in our eyes, and it's usually sunny and 70 during Christmas. Once every 5 years it'll snow. It's just a big gamble. So January and February are typically the coldest, but January is back and forth. It'll be 70 one day and 30 the next, or 30 in the morning and 70 by the afternoon. Once you get into spring or fall, it's a bit more consistent. Even every area has its weather issues except California. Apparently they have perfect weather all the time, but you have to deal with all the other stuff in California, right? The growth in Fort Worth is also kind of uneven. A ton of people want to live on the north side, especially near Alliance and Keller. This is where all the massive developments are happening. You've seen tons of growth in Hazlitt, Rome, North Tarrant, and it's starting to move west as well, and even further north. That also means some areas are getting overlooked. If you look at the east, southeast, and south sides of Fort Worth, the development just hasn't been there. They're doing a couple of projects here and there, but it's not what they're doing on the North Fort Worth side. These challenges are real, and you need to know about them. People are always asking, how come you don't talk about South Fort Worth? Well, there's not much going on. I live in the North Fort Worth area near Trophy Club, and I want to work close to home. We do help people on the South Fort Worth area and the west side close to Weatherford. It just depends on where you want to be. If you're willing to trade mountains and beaches for better economic opportunity, lower taxes, and fewer regulations, this is the type of person who would do very well here. Fort Worth is an incredible place to raise a family. School districts are really good, especially in the north and western suburbs, and some spots of South and East Fort Worth are as well. As a whole, especially in the areas that are growing, the school districts are highly rated. Schools, they're building, they're phenomenal. Better than some of the college campuses I've seen. These are also good private school options, Christian school options, homeschool options. The homeschool community has its own strong network here. If you're a social person and love to go get involved in your neighborhood, Fort Worth is great for that. The culture of the community is very tight. Neighborhood block parties, holiday parades, and most people stay involved with local churches. If you're a young professional, Fort Worth is good for you too. We have cybersecurity, tech software, healthcare, construction. No matter what type of job you're looking for, it's here. If you wanted to start a business, that opportunity is here. Fort Worth's metro is projected to grow over 9% annually through 2030. If you're young and looking for a crazy nightlife, Fort Worth isn't really known for that, but it does have downtown and the cultural district. However, if you're the type of person who waves at neighbors while walking the dog or flashes a hand up at people on country roads, you're going to fit in nicely. You have that Texas hospitality here. What if I told you Fort Worth is already working on fixing its biggest problems? Here's what needs to happen. First, as I mentioned, it's traffic. Fort Worth is very car dependent and public transit is minimal. Even though they're working on it with TexRail and the new Silver Line, it's still far from perfect. While there's a line connecting airports to downtown, many developments are still made for people with cars. People drive home, they stay home, and don't always have a neighborhood center they can walk to. There are few exceptions like Alliance, which is a massive mixed-use development with commercial, retail, and residential on one. They're doing something similar with development pushing north and west. It's crazy to see how these developments are expanding, but the roads need to be fixed. They're working on that. Though a few inner cities still need to be rethought, they usually get backed up during rush hour. And the highways are the main issue. The west side of Fort Worth is going to need some help on that. Fort Worth needs more parks and green spaces. They have a lot now, but they're doing a great job with the Trinity River Vision in the Panther Island project. That just needs to expand. That's going to be a game changer. Our river is the most underutilized asset in the city. And finally, they're doing something good with it. I think Fort Worth needs to focus on developing underserved areas like the east, southeast, and south sides. There's a ton of potential there, but it's going to require investment in businesses, schools, and parks. Bottom line is that Fort Worth is addressing these challenges head on with billions of dollars in infrastructure spending. For anyone considering a long-term move, these improvements will directly impact your quality of life and property values down the road. Fort Worth is about to become one of the 3 biggest metros in America, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. You've got River Central, a $2 billion mixed-use development, over 140 acres in Fort Worth, Grand Prairie area near DFW, the Texas Research Quarter being developed nearby, a new $4 billion hub for life sciences that will bring research companies, medical facilities, and high-paying jobs. Fort Worth is positioning itself to be one of the biggest metros in the country. We're already the 4th largest and on track to overtake Chicago by 2030. Unlike New York or San Francisco, Fort Worth isn't waterlocked or landlocked. It has plenty of room to keep growing. With corporate relocations continuing to come in and the Texas Stock Exchange, investments in infrastructure and the development of new districts, Fort Worth is going to be a powerhouse for decades to come. This is why I'm really bullish on Fort Worth. This is why I'm still here after all these years. I can see what's coming firsthand. That trajectory matters for anyone thinking long-term, investors, business owners, and families planning to stay. This growth directly translates to opportunity and appreciation in your homes. That brings us full circle to why I've stayed here. All this time is a long time to stay anywhere when you can live wherever you want. By the way, I'm 49, but Fort Worth keeps proving it was the right call. Whether you're trying to stretch your budget, cut out the commute, or find the best place that feels like home, I'll tell you exactly where I'd move right now if I were you. You can check out the next video right here in the link. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.